Hey golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing YouTube channel for another live at lunch, back on a Tuesday at noon as we always do. Today we have a very interesting one. We haven't done a lot of focus on golf shafts as much during, any of our club testing on our channel, but especially some of these lives as well. So we wanted to do some shaft testing today. I sent out a post on our YouTube channel last week asking for some ideas and recommendations of what you guys wanted to see. So we have some of those shafts with us today. Obviously within just an hour or so, we don't have the time to test all of those things, so we're going to limit it a little bit, but we'll be testing my driver, a G430 Max 10K, with various different driver shafts out there, and especially the VeloCore Plus lineup is also with us today, so we'll cover that. Mr. Tyler Fitzel is here today too. So Tyler, thanks for stopping in today. And I guess from these shafts, let's kind of just get started on what you've know about them, what you've seen. I know the VeloCore Plus lineup is still pretty fresh for everybody here. So what do you expect to see, I guess, in testing today from these various shafts we have?
One of the things that I'd say we get a lot of questions on is this idea about, okay, low launching, mid launching, high launching.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm interested in seeing as an example, if the 6X, same shaft, your swing, your driver, how do the launch characteristics change? Because essentially at the end of the day, we're talking about launch characteristics of saying, okay, how does this change?
Mm-hmm.
How does it, do I need something that's a little higher? Do you produce a swing that has something higher to it? So we've also got a couple others on the market. This, I don't know, how would you call this?
The Aretera?
Aretera?
Yeah.
Aretera? Yeah, we have a couple of those. That's kind of new to the market. It was an engineer that was at Fujikura for quite a while. Actually helped design a lot of stuff before. Mm-hmm. He had taken off from Fujikura and started a different lineup to that. We also have a graphite design, one of the hot graphite design shafts that I would compare against like the Ventus equipment right now. The Ventus shaft is the VF by Graphite Design. It's the red one. We see Tiger using it. We saw Justin Thomas using it. We see a couple more guys. It's a very, very stiff profile, very low launch profile. Again, just something to kind of compare against. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's kind of the idea today, and you know, we'd love to get your questions and feedback and comments as well as we go through this. We already got a couple I see already up there, and so the idea today is, you know, also a lot of the engagement that we did get and people responding is we didn't really there was no feedback on iron shafts. I didn't specify in the comment or anything about what type of shaft, but everybody wants to see the bombs and wants to see how much distance they can get off the tee. So that's kind of the idea today. So.
Well, I talk about that for a quick second. When we talk about steel, it's a steel tube. Yeah. There's a lot less variation that happens in a steel shaft versus a graphite shaft. So if we're going to talk graphite, we might as well talk, if we're going to talk shafts, we talk graphite. It's a much bigger profile. We talk about the driver. That's where you kind of put your money where the mouth is. The idea of we have a lot of money that can get invested into these. They cost a lot of money. The tolerances are really tight. The processes that they use are really tight.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a matter, at least for me when I started working here, that, you know, the club heads were one thing and I was able to kind of get the hang of those and the different technologies and things like that. But when it comes to the shafts, that's a little bit, it's tougher to see, right? You can't really see shaft technologies that much.
Yeah.
So there's that, plus just the finite differences, it feels like, because it's such a feel thing too for players. So we're gonna do some testing there. We already got a bunch of comments. I kind of wanted to give your opinion on a couple of these here. So first from Neil asking about his shaft setup here. Playing Ventus Red TR6S, find it super whippy. A lot of errant shots. I don't know where the club head is. I was thinking the new Ventus Blue 6X or even the 7S. Is there would you have a preference of kind of, if he feels it's really whippy, which way should he go there?
Yeah, heavier.
Yeah.
And two things to that, right? The red, where the stiffness occurs in a shaft, if we're talking about, here's the new Ventus VeloCore Plus, where the stiffness occurs. So
that's the big difference with these.
Let's say, for instance, it's actually 60 grams, so the shaft is actually 60 grams. What we end up with is, where is the 60 grams being put?
Right.
So if, for instance, I'm going to take maybe a little bit more out of the tip section, it might be a bit more flexible, it might feel a little bit softer, but I can put that into the handle, I might be able to put it up into the top end of that shaft. Where that gets dispersed in the shaft is usually where we get feedback or feel from.
Yeah.
The second part to that is just something heavier in general. So weight is a huge component of shafts. There's 3 things that we can measure every shaft by, and this goes for steel versus graphite. But graphite, number 1, there's an actual weight. So you know, from one company to the next, grams are grams.
Right.
Number 2, you can have a frequency where they put it on an analyzer and they find out how that shaft is bending. You can get an overall frequency number that can be compared from shaft to shaft. The third thing that happens with a lot of shafts is the torque.
Yes.
Now for him, he might be feeling more twists, which is a higher torque versus a lower torque. Just getting something with a lower torque rating might not feel as whippy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to that end, right, you could get a 6X, if you're talking about the 6 stiff, you could put a 6X in. That right there might feel stiffer.
Yeah.
But again, it's in combination with the desired result that you're trying to get. Does it have a feel? Does it have a launch angle? Does it have a spin?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know at the end of the day, that's all you want from the fittings and things is just about the performance, the launch, spin, ball speed, those things. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of have you just like where you want this to go. You've got my driver head up there, and you've got all the shafts in that staff bag next to you. So I'll let you kind of determine.
Well, first let's start with what's in yours, right? So you're currently playing the Ping Tour Black 2.0, and this is the 65X. It's a new lineup that came out with the G430, and it is probably the stiffest and most stout shaft that Ping has produced.
Yeah.
This goes up and rivals with the Ventus, like the Ventus Black, maybe an extra stiff Ventus Blue. It's not a red. It's not a higher launch type. It's a very low launch, stiff profile. For that matter, if we were to start with that 65X, I would just go to the black in the 6X in this because it's very, very similar to it. You normally have yours set up in standard position?
Yes, normally I do. I have toyed with going flat a little bit this year, and then I went back, and so I started the year pulling that thing quite a bit left, and so then I went flat, and now I'm back to kind of standard for the most part. So.
Okay. Well, let's start here.
I do toy with it quite a bit, though.
Yeah. Let's start on that side of it, and then.
We get a golf glove today.
Kind of what we do is hit 4 or 5 shots, just get ourselves an idea about what's going on.
Yeah.
Black 6X. There we go.
And then while I'm going here, there's a couple of more comments. I got one from Jason there. That's a good one. Is gaming the new Triple Diamond Max with the Denali Blue, wondering how much the Ventus Blue Velocore Plus would be different from the Denali Blue. That's a good one.
Yeah, not a lot. The differences in shafts when you get into this kind of low launch, mid launch, high launch is that from company to company, what you might get is you might get a different feel. There might be, graphite design is well known for its feel. I don't want to call it soft. It's not soft, but in a general sense, it's usually very receptive. You can kind of feel what's going on. So the Blue by Velocore, when it first came out, their first attempt at this was and still probably is the most popular shaft that is out there in the last 5 years, without question. We see a lot of tour players with it.
Yeah, I know. It's out there everywhere. You see it. Especially, I feel like just because of swing speed, it's probably the black is the most popular. But you see a lot of fairway woods too with like blue and red.
Yes.
So. All right.
So far, so good, right?
Ooh, that one might turn over.
A little thin.
Yeah, it was kind of maybe heel even, but. Oh, I just realized this is an AVX. I thought it was a Pro V1, but.
Well, let's use it.
Yeah, we already started. Can't go back now. That one's off the toe. Oh, that's a misread.
All right, one more.
Yeah, that one's a misread for sure.
Yeah, at that ball speed.
I mean, the spin at 46.
That spin, yeah.
It was not that much spin. All right. That one was hit pretty good.
That was good. Yeah, excellent. That's enough with that. Yeah, from a spin perspective, I'm going to knock that one off because nothing else was italicized. So that spin
Right.
must have been wacky right there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
and
189 feet in the air is pretty high.
And that's something to consider when we talk about this in a fitting sense. We're looking at these numbers, but when TrackMan doesn't get something, if they get something that's not in their parameters, if they can't quite pick up that, what they end up doing is it's italicized. It means it's kind of an estimated or a guess.
Right.
But when that's twice as much as the average, it's probably not the right spin for that matter. Pretty good numbers. Well, let's try something different. Let's go to the blue.
So that was the 6X black for those just joining.
Let's go to the blue, and then we'll go to the red, and just kind of we'll climb those three. Talk a little bit about the importance of shaft. I know that from a major manufacturing perspective, the companies themselves would say the same thing, pretty much across the board. There's three components. There's the club head, because that hits the ball. There's the shaft, and then there's the swing that's moving that whole club. They're very equal in their importance.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like to say, well, the shaft is the most important part. It's not, because if it was, we'd be swinging shafts and not club heads.
Right.
And even for that matter, because everyone's swing is individual, yet again, it's not about finding that one shaft. This shaft is going to feel different and produce differences in Titleist and a Callaway and a TaylorMade.
Sure. Yeah.
And the reason is that they're all slightly different. The head weights may be slightly different. The shapes might be different. The lie angles, the way that they construct the face, those are all different.
Yep.
So this is the blue. This is again what first came out early on, and then they adjusted to come out with the black and then the red. We'll see what this does.
Yeah. I will say it looks cool.
It's got a nice matte finish.
Yeah.
I've got this in a Callaway. I have it in the triple diamond.
Okay.
It goes.
Does it?
Yeah, it really. Yeah. At first I was a little thrown off because I've been playing the TR blue, and I felt like this is a little stiffer, but also with the way that the plus is added material to kind of create
it's kind of a different
a little bit
there,
of a different stiffness to it. So it feels a little bit different from one to the next.
Okay. Can't say I've swung any of the Ventus that much really, so. Wow, yeah, I mean, I have no complaints about that one.
No, good start.
It definitely, I don't know, it does feel, it feels like, I don't know, it feels like I'm more aware of where the club is in the sense of like, I shouldn't say I'm more aware of where it is, I'm aware that there's more lag there almost.
Yeah,
that's wrong, but.
Which this has a slightly softer tip, even though it's still extra stiff. And as an example, someone in your position that might be looking for a bit more of the launch, right? If you come in a little low or you're a little inside out and things come in flat, we're looking at the other piece of this puzzle becomes a golf ball. And yeah, we have an AVX because it was what you grabbed over here.
Yeah,
and it's a TrackMan ball. It's an RCT ball. But the point to that too is maybe you do produce a lot of spin.
Yeah.
With a lot of your other clubs. And then all of a sudden you get to the driver and you don't produce enough. That's where the shaft might help.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's a very high ball flight there. That one should be lower. Yeah, that's definitely lower. If it doesn't turn over, it'll be good. Oh yeah.
Ah, nice.
All right, get one more here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this definitely just feels a little more, feels like it's a little bit more movement almost during the swing.
And that kind of goes back to Neil when he had mentioned, hey, feels a little too whippy in the red.
Yeah, it's a little bit like.
Yeah, you can absolutely go to the blue, which would be better. You go to the black. And if you have an opportunity to find out what your launch angles are, if you have an opportunity to see what differences there are. So really nice. Again, in terms of consistency, we're seeing about the same amount of spin, which is good. I mean, we're talking about maybe 200 RPMs on average. We're definitely seeing a little bit more trajectory, which is good. We see our carries up, our totals up.
Yeah.
And again, like as an average, right?
Yeah.
That's where we want to be. Well, let's try the red and see what happens.
So do we think this is going to go higher then even?
Yeah, I don't think that way.
Okay.
Only because statistically, a company can market something if it happens to a measurable amount. So take, for instance, the black versus the blue. Well, lower launching. Statistically, it could be a foot.
But it is lower launching.
Peak height, but it's lower launching.
Okay.
So it's what it does in conjunction with the head and the swing.
Yeah. So you don't think of them individually as this shaft is going to do this. It's more of a,
no.
How does this shaft with this driver compare to this shaft with this driver?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really look at for that is weight, right? If we're testing extra stiffs, 6X in all these.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you play in yours.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, if the weight is the same, they're all extra stiff. They're not all extra stiff based on where they put it, so the feel changes.
Right.
So let's call it maybe the bending, the dynamics of that club.
Yeah, this is it really does. It really is the next step up from blue in terms of just like, I haven't even swung it yet, but it feels like when I make my transition down, the club head just kind of stays back for an extra beat.
Yeah.
And then it comes down, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like, I guess we'll find out. It feels like because of that, I might miss right, leave the face more open. I don't know exactly. And I know it's tempo based too. It's not just swing speed.
That's swing based, right? Does your attack angle change? Does your face angle change?
All those things can change.
The thing about when people say, well, the shaft is the most important, the reality is like, it's not a living object. It can't change what you do to it. So for instance, if you swing down, it's not all of a sudden just going to swing itself up.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And attack angle is a huge part. If you've got the face open, the shaft's not just going to close the face.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So in that regard, that's why we see most often shafts perform slightly different, but the feedback, the feel, is usually the key to that.
Mm-hmm. It felt like a really good swing there.
Yeah, it was really good.
I played in an event this weekend, and I was in a long drive contest. So
Yeah.
I'm used to this really swinging up type of deal because I had deal-opted my driver for it, and so I'm really used to just swinging way up on the ball right now. Grab that one? Sure did. See that one? I don't know if that was on the club. Maybe I hit it a little low in the face, or it didn't feel
Could
like
have been,
that, but
most likely. A little spinny, but
yeah.
You know, again, we'll find out what the numbers bear. If this has more launch and has more spin, we already had a little bit of that in compared to the black versus the blue.
Right.
So it, as you say, in a conventional line of thinking, if something's supposed to be low, middle, and high, we'd like to see those results.
Yeah. Ooh, that was a miss hit. See how that goes. It was a heel cut. Well, not even a cut.
The shafts, they have, it's all live testing.
Right.
It's all subject testing, because the subject's going to move the shaft differently.
Swing to swing.
Yeah, swing to swing.
Right.
So they have high-speed cameras, very elite high-speed cameras. They have markers on that shaft. they're really trying to dial in what's happening, where it's happening, how it's happening. And then they get patterns based off of that, so they can start to look at the patterns.
Yeah. Wow, I almost missed that one too. 197 feet in the air there, Tyler.
It's up. Got that one up there.
Look at that, I almost backed up my driver.
You are.
All right, this is gonna be better.
All right, there you go.
Should be better as long as I didn't turn it too hard.
Yeah. And we see our dispersion off. We can do away with one shot. That's not a big deal.
For sure, that one over there. Yeah, let's get rid of that one. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not really any different than the black right now.
Correct.
I mean, in terms of dispersion, right? So it's left, it's right.
Yeah, you might get me to go to the blue here if we.
Well, and so because of that, right, we look at this and go, all right, ball speed didn't necessarily change that much. Launch was pretty similar. Spin was pretty similar. If we look at the numbers, the black and the red performed similar, but I don't know this. You can tell me. The feel had to be very different.
It was. It totally was.
So
yeah,
that feedback is important. If you get it, you get it to a certain point in your swing and you're expecting a certain feel and then it's not there, that's where the swing starts to change on it. Where it's like, we're going to try to compensate. Oh, that didn't move here. That didn't move there.
Yeah.
And so we want to try to change that up, and that's not really what we want to do at all.
So I guess again, this is just a few swings. Nothing, not a crazy scientific test, but I think we can kind of, we can make some conclusions, but also just kind of trace some of the findings back to what we already know about the sort of Ventus lineup. The red is this, the blue is this, the black is this. So, I personally liked the blue and a lot better than I maybe thought I would. It was obviously very higher launching, very, a landing angle over 40 degrees is not typically something I'm used to with driver, but.
Yeah, and so for that, the technology that Velocore presented to start with was the entire center of the shaft, or the core of the shaft, was a space-age material. It was very high strength, lightweight, and it allowed for less twisting.
Yeah.
And even if if that stability in the shaft is happening and you catch it maybe a little off center, toe, high, low, heel, it's going to help in maybe reacting slightly different to that hit versus something that might have a little bit more flexibility to that. It's still provided essentially the most stable and popular shaft across all major tours ever. Like, it's one of the most used in every, I can't say every, it's not 100%, but man, almost every single bag on the
has
PGA
at least
tour.
one of these.
Oh yeah, of some sort.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to maximize technology.
Yeah.
And that's what comes at. We talk about shafts and it's technology and technique. It goes back to that same, all right, how much does technology influence this? How much does technique? That's why it's important to get a shaft fitting. The flip side of this is most of the shafts that companies are using in there, like Ping as an example, they're using a really high quality shaft.
Yeah.
So it stands up against these others, and there are professionals playing the Ping shaft.
Yeah.
Because it stands up.
Yeah, it does well.
For the general consumer, this is another side of it, right? All right. Prices on things are $600 a driver, or up.
Or higher. Yeah.
Or higher, because there are some. And then to throw on $200, $300, or $400 on top of it, is a $1,000 driver going to perform better than a $600 driver?
For some.
It could.
Yeah. And it could. I think there's a feel element too, especially for, I definitely have that feel where I have the 65, the Ping Tour black. I need stout a little bit in my shaft. I need it to be stout. I didn't like this kind of, like up here right now, I even feel way more whippiness going on with the driver head, even when I just do one of these. So I don't like that. So I need that, and it's a feel thing too that you get with the Ventus Black, and then the performance there too. There's the forgiveness piece that you've talked about within the technology of the Velocore models. So
well, let's switch this up, and there's an engineer that was at Fujikura for a long time and created was helping to create many number of shafts. I'd asked him one time about this specifically when we were in a conversation, and I said, what are the legal limits on a shaft? Because this is also something, you know, when we talk about the club head, you have size, you have weight, you have how far the weight can go, you have the bounce effect or the rebound effect on the face. A lot of these things are all measured, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is the Aretera Alpha Gray.
Yep.
Alpha 1 Gray 65X.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
And my first initial kind of, as I'm practice swinging, it feels a lot like the red or blue versus the black.
This is always a great one. You'll see that people will kind of do the old, I'm going to bend this. Wow, this is whippy. You know, give it the old, I'm going to push on this a little, give it the old waggle out in front.
Yeah, and I haven't actually swung it yet.
No,
I've just been
and
doing one of these.
And
so.
that's why I bring it up. I love the fact that you're like, wow, this feels kind of like the red.
Am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's not the comparison for this.
Feel is subjective, right?
Yeah.
Feel is subjective.
I suppose.
You know, you grab this and go, wow, this feels really flexible.
It could also be visually playing tricks on me because the white shaft does, like you notice, you see where it contrasts more to the everything else. So, I don't know. I'm gonna swing and we'll see what happens. I felt like I turned that over some. Oh, not too bad.
No, it was all right.
Oh, some low spin. Okay, then that one turned over. That's it's gonna be left.
But does it, going back to that, does it feel sort of like that red
I think it does.
while you swing too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'm crazy. I've been told I'm crazy. All right, that one's hit better. A little bit more spin.
Yeah. One more.
See if I can get this to 295 carry.
Oh, good launch.
Maybe.
Nope.
Ooh,
too
no,
much
a little bit spinny.
Little spinny. It's all right. And again, pretty
Kind of have this
much
tendency to have one go left on me, don't I?
Yeah, well, and even for that, you want one more swing? I mean, oh, we don't need it there, but
Yeah, whatever.
but similar dispersion pattern, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't mean we need to get into the blue, but it looks like it's making a case for it. There's another version of this too. So then we also have the Alpha 1 Blue. I haven't looked at the differences between them.
Okay.
What I do know is that these are the extra stiffs, and that's one of the things that someone would say, like we just talked about a moment ago. Okay, this doesn't feel stiff. This feels whippy, and that is something that feel subjects into, where you say, well, this moves around a little bit.
Yeah.
Depending on what part of the shaft is stiff or stiffer, is very true. I mean, it could be, right? If you looked at the same dynamic with steel shafts, right? If you get something and you kind of move it around, and you're like, well, this is pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if it's an extra stiff and you're just the way that you kind of move that thing.
Right. Yeah. It's
creates.
No, how
creates
the
that.
shaft reacts when you do this doesn't matter because that's not how you're swinging the club. So,
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's try this.
All right. So this is the blue,
Yep.
Alpha Blue.
First impression?
I like it.
Okay, not as whippy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I felt like that one on my swing, it felt like I went closer to or past parallel compared to normal. Like I felt like the club went back farther.
Right.
But I didn't feel like I lost feel of where the club head was. You know,
Yeah.
like I just felt like I brought it back a little further.
Yeah. Well,
So-
But that goes to that whole point. Every single swing you make is going to be different. So like, and we don't know. Well, was it all the way back here? Was it up here? Was it over
it's a
there?
slight feel thing. I'm sure nobody watching noticed that, but
well, I noticed it.
No.
No.
I feel like it would take some serious vision to spot something like that, like slow-mo vision or something.
Yeah. Well.
That was a little bit high on the face. Okay. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
Trying to hit the Rory big high draw, you know. Except he does it probably 25 yards further than I do. Well, and there's the problem with trying to hit the big high draw, is if the face is open, it goes over there. It's actually not that bad.
Before we had some technical difficulties, we were on the subject of driver length, and I think it's a very important process to look at with a fitter. You don't get to just cut down the shaft and gain consistency. The reason for that is that there's a balance. There's an actual overall weight of the head, where the weight is in the head, how the shaft is sitting. When you change it, it's just like changing from a 5-iron to a pitching wedge. So you take that length off. Well, you've got a different weighted head. You have a different lie angle. There's a different loft to that, and those all need to be adjusted. So when and if you do, there are a few companies out there that are designing their fitting packages for that. Cobra's one of them. So with Cobra, you have the opportunity to try something that's 45.5 or 44.5, right? A full inch difference of. But there's also a weight kit that you have to change out.
Yeah.
And that weight kit is very important. So it's like we need to put weight into a certain spot, so we have different variables for that. Another one that's very that's adjustable on that right now is Titleist. And we're going to see their new GT lineup here in a few days. And we're going to see that there's weights that need to be adjusted for it. Personally, I play something at 45 inches, but I've also played stuff at 45.5. Not really played anything shorter than that, but I always just find that works for me. So with that, in Titleist's new lineup, as an example, I need 2 grams more weight. I need the next step in weight where I take a 1/2 inch off the end of the shaft.
Yeah.
Same would be as talking about ping. These are all the exact same length, so that's fine.
Right.
Same would be talking about any of these. Then the idea is you have to find out where you're at. Sometimes if you hit everything on the heel, people will say, well, I need to stand away further. Well, now standing away further means that you have to reach farther. Generally, we have to get that club out there so you end up more on the heel or just right where you were.
Yeah.
Shortening it up doesn't necessarily make that happen, but it is a great thing to look at for hit location.